Hey, this is going to show you how to build your final pinch pot, which you'll get some clay after you have your brainstorming sheet turned in. So once you do that, then you're going to get some larger clay. I want you to start to build that pinch pot based off of some of the techniques we already learned. I'm going to show you how you can then start to craft it skillfully. There we go. And how you can then start to build up the walls and make it taller and change its shape. So you'll notice here that my pinch pot has pretty thin walls. One way to check is your thumb thickness. If it is thicker than the thickness of your thumb, then your clay is going to be too thick. So check that on the walls. You can also check that on the bottom by using your needle tool, poking it into, and make sure that your hand isn't just on the bottom, but you have some space, poking it into your bottom until you can see the end coming through, okay? And I'm just gonna hold my hand where it is on the bottom, and this is how thick my bottom of my clay is. You don't want it to be any thinner than that. That's about your thumb thickness. It can be a slightly thicker bottom, but not thicker than your thumb. All right, so once you have your clay kind of built, now the next steps are to kind of clean it up and to make it highly crafted. So I use my sponge, which I have a little bit of water or dipped into the slip, and I'm holding my hand on the inside, and I'm starting to just go in a circular motion around the outside of my clay to clean up any of these bumps. Don't add too much water to your clay because it's going to make it fall apart. It will lose its shape. Water is good, but in small doses. Otherwise, like I said, it will start to collapse. So we can do that. And you'll notice that this is starting to break apart. I'm going to show you how to clean that up too. On the inside, I want to also clean this up. So I'm going to hold my hand on the outside and then move my hand or move my sponge on the inside of my mug to clean that up. You can also, rather than using your hands, just use your fingers. That also really helps smooth it out. If you find that your clay is starting to get too wet, give it a second, maybe get some dry paper towel and just wrap it around your clay so it can pick up any of that moisture. The more that you work with your clay, if your hands are dry, then the drier the clay will get as well. So I know this doesn't look perfect, but I'm going to show you a couple ways that we can resolve this. First of all, I'm going to use what's called a banding wheel. I'm going to put that here, and I want to find the center of my banding wheel, which is that circle here, and lay the clay on that. I'm going to use a couple of extra pieces of clay, roll them into some small coils, and then just stick them on the outside and just push in. This is what's going to hold my clay to my banding wheel. I want to do that at least 3 times. This banding wheel is a little bit wonky. It doesn't seem to move as well, but still, I'll show you how to do it on a not so great banding wheel. Then I'm going to use the Sgraffito tool, and I'm going to hold this at an angle so that it is straight along my edge. You'll notice here that if I start to roll my banding wheel, I'm going to make a line across my clay. I don't want to press too hard. If I press too hard, it's just going to cave in my clay. I'm keeping this hand in one spot, and all I'm doing is just letting the magic of the tool just slide through. Okay, again, don't push too hard. Just allow it to do its work. As I constantly spin that around. And you'll notice that this is starting to come off, but it's not over on this other side. The reason for that is this was caved in a little bit, so I can push that out. And then I can come back here and just rip that off. Now I've got all this extra clay. I can just put that to the side with my extra pieces. You can see here that it's still not quite fully even, but that's okay. We can go back in and clean that off with our fingers or with the Sgraffito or even the loop tool. The loop tool is really great, especially if your clay gets to the stage of leather hard, where then you can scoop in away some of those little pieces, okay? My clay is a little bit wet for me to do that now, so I'm gonna wait on using that loop tool. At this point, I really just want to perfect it with my fingers, smoothing it out and getting rid of any of those little bumps. All of those little schnibbles, which are those little pieces of clay, if they come off, you can just collect them inside of your slip container to reuse those for slip. Now, speaking of slip, we want to build up a coil on this piece here. If you want your clay to be a circle, then keep it as is. If you want it to change its shape, we have different paddles that you can use. Hold your hand on the inside and just give a light tap, okay? I'm gonna do that 4 times to make it into a square. And then I can start to just pinch my edges a little bit more to make a little bit of a firmer square or rectangle or whatever shape you want. Now, like I said, coil and slip. We're gonna be now using our slip and scoring to build up our clay. Now, you already know that you can pinch away to make your clay flare open. You can pinch towards yourself to make it pinch or flare closed. Now I'm going to show you how you can use a coil to change the shape. So again, make your coil, roll it out, make sure that you are going back and forth across your coil to get that to be even. If your coil is starting to break apart, you definitely need to add some water to your hands, massage it back into your clay, and then you can keep going there, okay? I'm gonna move this out of the way so I have some more space. Okay, now I've got my coil. I want to add on my clay. If I want this to just go directly up so it looks like a tall cylinder, then I'm gonna score right on top of my clay lip here. If I want it to go out so it looks like an open mouth vase, then I'm gonna score along the outside of my clay here. And if I want it to go in and get smaller and smaller so it's like a tapered point at the top, then I'm gonna coil along the inside of my clay here. I'm gonna show you how to make it come in a little bit, because this is starting to flare out a little bit. And I think that this is one technique that will help everybody kind of pull in their clay a little bit. So of course I'm gonna score, making my score lines all along the inside of my clay. Remember, you wanna go in multiple different directions, not just in one. And you can see that I scored on the inside of that, right? Then I also have to score this coil. I want to add a little bit of height, so I'm just going to pinch my coil a little bit so it's a little flatter. And then I'm going to just measure it out on the inside of my mug or pinch pot so far, okay? And I'm just gonna tear it off to where it ends. That extra clay, just put that to the side. Now I still have to score this. One thing that you can do rather than having to take this whole thing off is just to score the edge like this. So I'm kind of embedding or meshing these two pieces of clay together from this point of view, And once I get that all the way around, remember, if we don't score and slip it, then your clay will start to dry apart and it won't be bound together at that molecular level. And then once it goes into the kiln, there's a chance of it just splitting apart. Next, I want to use my slip. And I'm going to use my Sgraffito little shovel to collect some of that slip and put that along the edge where my scoring is. I want to add more, but I'm just going to do it in this one section here just to show you. And I'm going to hold my hand on the inside, and I'm just going to use this Sgraffito tool to blend my clay together with that slip. Okay? You'll notice that there's this like little break here. That's okay. I can take some of my slip. I can pinch it together. I can rescore it, both the inside and the outside, and then using my scoring tool, fix that up. Once I've scored it, I really want to make sure that I go back in with my fingers and smooth that out really evenly on all angles. If you see any texture on here yet, we're going to be able to smooth that out once it gets closer to that leather hard stage. Right now, if you press too hard when your clay is too wet, it will just go. All right, so can you see how now this is starting to move in? If I want to continue to build that in and in, I can put another coil here, or if I want to build it up, I'm going to put that coil here. So think about how your shape of your mug is designed. Think about how you're going to put those facial features on it, and have fun.